October 18, 1931. A man in a black suit stands alone in a massive room, watching thousands of people file past a single casket. 2 U.S. presidents are here, automobile magnates, the richest men on earth. And yet, the man in the suit, Charles Edison, isn't looking at the famous faces. He is staring at the casket. Inside lies his father, Thomas Alva Edison. The room is silent, but Charles's mind is screaming one question: how much did he actually leave us? The papers call him a genius, a wizard, but Charles knew his father as a man obsessed, a man who slept 4 hours a night, a man who turned darkness into light. As the organ music fades, Charles remembers a story about a single night 52 years earlier that didn't just create an invention, it created a fortune so vast that it would bend the very fabric of the American economy. He remembers the night the world changed. It is October 21, 1879. Menlo Park, New Jersey is freezing. Inside a cramped laboratory, Thomas Edison, age 32, is not sleeping. He is holding a piece of carbonized cotton thread, thinner than a needle. His heart is pounding. For months, the entire press has mocked him. They call him the Wizard of Menlo Park as an insult, saying he's chasing a fantasy. Gas stocks are soaring. Investors think he's insane. But Edison isn't just trying to invent a light bulb, he is trying to win a war. He looks at his financiers, J.P. Morgan and the Vanderbilt family, who are waiting in the shadows. If this burns out in 10 minutes, he is bankrupt. If it works, he owns the night. He signals to the vacuum pump. They remove the air. He sends the current. The filament glows. 1 hour passes. 2 hours. 10 hours. 40 hours. The bulb is still burning. Edison doesn't smile. He turns to his men and whispers, "If it lasts, I will make electricity so cheap that only the rich will burn candles." The next morning, the newspapers go crazy, but the public doesn't understand. They think he just made a lamp. They don't realize he just built a key to a bank vault.
1882, September 4, 3 p.m. Wall Street is about to plunge into darkness, literally. Edison stands inside the offices of Drexel, Morgan & Co. He throws a switch. 25 blocks away, the Pearl Street station hums to life. For the first time in human history, light flips on without a flame. But here is the trick. Edison didn't sell light bulbs, he sold a system. He owned the patents for the generator, the wiring, the sockets, and the meters. Every time a stockbroker on Wall Street flipped a switch, a coin dropped into Edison's pocket. The money starts flowing. But it's not just light. He invents the phonograph, a machine that talks. People think it's black magic. He sells it for profit. He invents the motion picture camera. He builds a concrete company. He buys iron mines. By 1900, Edison is not just an inventor, he is a factory, a machine that turns ideas into money. But there is a shadow, a storm coming from the west. A man named George Westinghouse and another genius named Nikola Tesla are pushing a different type of electricity, alternating current, or AC. Edison's system is direct current, DC. A war breaks out. It is brutal. Edison knows that if AC wins, his entire empire, the patents, the power plants, the millions, evaporates. So he does something ruthless. 1888, he secretly funds a campaign to show the public how dangerous AC power is. He pays a man named Harold Brown to travel to dog pounds, buying stray animals. In public demonstrations, he electrocutes them using Westinghouse's AC generators. The newspapers are horrified, but Edison doesn't stop. He advises the state of New York on a new method of execution, the electric chair. He makes sure the first one is powered by Westinghouse's AC generator. The first man executed, William Kemmler, is not killed instantly. He suffers horribly. The press blames Westinghouse. The public turns against AC. Edison saves his empire. He keeps the lights on, and he keeps the money flowing.
So how rich was he? By 1910, his companies are merging into Thomas A. Edison Industries. It is a behemoth. When he finally merges it with a rival to form General Electric, the deal is so massive it reshapes the stock market. At the peak of his power, his inflation-adjusted net worth is estimated to be over $200 billion in today's money. That is richer than Steve Jobs, richer than Elon Musk. At a time when the average worker made $500 a year, Edison was making $1 million a year, just in royalties. He owned 1,093 U.S. patents. No one has ever beaten that record. But here is the twist. Back to the funeral. October 18, 1931. Charles Edison opens the will. He reads the figures, and his blood runs cold. Thomas Edison, the man worth $200 billion in modern wealth, the man who powered a nation, left behind approximately $12 million. Adjusted to today, that's about $200 million. A fortune, yes, but for the man who invented the 20th century, it's pocket change. Charles is confused. He goes through the books. He finds the answer. It wasn't stocks. It wasn't real estate. It was in his father's desk. Receipts. Thousands of them. Not for machines, but for people. Edison had paid for the college tuitions of his employees' children. He had covered medical bills for sick rivals. He had funded a struggling young scientist named Henry Ford. And not just once. When Ford's second automobile company failed in 1901, leaving him nearly penniless, a check arrived. No loan papers, no interest, just a note from Edison. Keep building. Charles sits down, the paper trembling in his hands. He remembers the camping trips with the Fords, the laughter around the fire. He thought it was friendship. It was deeper. It was a debt his father never mentioned. He keeps digging. The story unravels further. 1914, December 9th. A massive fire rips through Edison's West Orange laboratory. 10 buildings, millions of dollars of prototypes, glassware, and notes gone. Charles finds his father standing in the ashes, 67 years old, watching his life's work burn. Charles expects him to crumble. Instead, Edison squints through the smoke and says, "Thank goodness all our mistakes are burned up. Now we can start fresh." But the cash? The recovery money? Charles finds the ledger. The first donation to rebuild came from Henry Ford, $750,000. The second came from a man Edison had never met, a rival industrialist who simply wrote on the check, "For the man who lit my home." Edison had spent his life building a fortune, but he had spent it building something else, an army of people who owed him everything. The funeral ends. The last mourners leave. Charles stands alone with the casket. He looks at the tiny fortune his father left behind. He realizes the truth. Edison didn't lose his billions. He spent them on experiments that failed, on employees who needed a second chance, on a future he wouldn't live to see. The old man slept 4 hours a night, not because he was greedy, but because he was trying to finish a list of things he wanted to give away before the clock ran out. As they lower the casket into the ground, Charles remembers one last thing. A year before he died, Edison emerged from his lab with a strange plant in his hand, goldenrod, a weed.
He told reporters he was trying to extract rubber from it. They laughed. An old man chasing ghosts. But as Charles rides home from the cemetery, he gets a call. The US government. They want to talk about the goldenrod. Because 4 years later, World War II will cut off America's rubber supply. And deep in a government warehouse, they will find Edison's research, a domestic source of rubber, ready to go. He didn't live to see the war, but he built the bridge for it. So how rich was Thomas Edison? At the moment of his death, $12 million. But if you measure it in light bulbs glowing in hospitals, in movies playing on screens, in the very sound of recorded music, in tires rolling on American Jeeps in 1944, in the college degrees of factory workers' kids, the number becomes infinite. The wizard didn't take the fortune with him. He buried it in the future, and we are still digging it up today.
October 1931. The room is dim. Edison is 84 now, confined to a bed in his New Jersey home. The man who once commanded armies of engineers can barely lift a glass. But his eyes are still moving, still calculating. His doctors hover. The world hovers. Henry Ford sits in the corner, tasked with capturing his hero's last breath in a test tube, a relic for the museum. It's macabre, it's obsessive, but Ford doesn't care. He needs a piece of him. Edison's hand twitches. He reaches for a notepad. The nurses think it's delirium. They hand him a pencil. His final invention? A list. Not patents, not formulas, just 5 names. Mechanics, janitors, lab assistants from decades ago. He whispers to his son, Charles, "They stayed poor so I could dream. Make sure they're okay." Charles nods, holding back tears. The old man sinks back. His breathing slows. Henry Ford moves closer, test tube ready. The room holds its breath. 1 second, 2 seconds, silence. Thomas Edison is gone. But Ford doesn't catch it. He's too late. The moment passes. And in that empty tube is a lesson. You cannot trap a man's spirit. Not in glass, not in money, not in history books. 3 days later, Charles is cleaning out the study. Behind a painting, he finds something strange. A small steel safe, no bigger than a bread box. No one knew it existed. Not the lawyers, not the family. Charles calls a locksmith. The safe cracks open with a hiss of old air. Inside, no cash, no stocks, no diamonds. Just a rusted iron nail and a handwritten letter. Charles reads the letter. His hands shake. The nail is from the very first light post in Menlo Park, the one that glowed that night in 1879. The letter explains. Edison kept it to remind himself that empires are built on small things, on failures, on nails, on moments everyone else forgets. And at the bottom of the letter, a final instruction. Charles, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't build me a statue. Don't name me a school after me. Just find one kid who thinks they're stupid and tell them they're not. Tell them to keep breaking things until something works. That's my real patent. That's my real fortune. Give it away. Charles folds the letter. He looks out the window at the factories, the power lines, the glowing city in the distance. His father built all of it, but he never owned any of it. He was just the nail, the spark, the stubborn man who refused to stop.
So let's answer the question, the one that started this story. How rich was Thomas Edison? The accountants will tell you $12 million. The historians will argue 200 billion adjusted. The economists will point to General Electric, worth over $100 billion today, built on his bones. But the real number? 0. Because on the day he died, he owed a debt he could never repay, a debt to the future, to the boy in a dusty town who would read about the light bulb and decide to build a rocket, to the girl in a lab coat today, staring at a failed experiment, remembering that Edison failed 10,000 times before one worked. He didn't leave money, he left permission. Permission to fail, permission to try again, permission to light up the dark. And that currency never runs out. It compounds forever. Every time you flip a switch, you collect interest. Every time you record a voice, you cash a dividend. Every time you watch a movie, you're sitting in a theater built by a man who died with a rusted nail in a safe and a test tube full of nothing. January 1932, 3 months after the funeral, a cold morning in Michigan. A young boy, maybe 10 years old, walks into Henry Ford's museum. He's poor, shoes have holes. He's heard stories about the great Edison. He stares at a replica of Menlo Park, rebuilt brick by Ford. A guide notices the boy. "You like this stuff?" The boy nods. "I want to invent things, but my teacher says I'm too dumb." The guide smiles. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small card, a business card. It's old, yellowed, frayed at the edges. He hands it to the boy. The boy reads it. His eyes go wide. It's Edison's personal card, handwritten on the back. "To whoever needs this, you're not dumb, they just haven't asked the right question yet. Keep asking. T.A.E." The guide shrugs. "Mr. Ford gave them out to all the staff, said to find the right kid. Guess you're it." The boy clutches the card like gold. He runs home through the snow, shoes leaking, feet freezing. He doesn't feel the cold. He's holding a nail, a spark, a permission slip from a dead man. That boy's name? Nobody recorded it. Maybe he became someone. Maybe he became nothing. But somewhere in America, a light burned a little brighter that night, because one old man, 84 years dead, reached across the grave and flipped a switch in a child's mind. And that, right there, is the fortune they'll never calculate. The fortune that keeps compounding, long after the last bulb burns out. April 1932, 6 months after the funeral. A lawyer knocks on Charles Edison's door. He looks pale. "We found something in the basement of the old laboratory, behind a wall." Charles follows him back to West Orange. Workers have torn down a brick partition. Behind it, a wooden crate, sealed in 1918. Charles breaks the lock. Inside, notebooks, hundreds of them. Not inventions, not patents, just names, thousands of names and dollar amounts. Charles doesn't understand. Then he reads the first page. John Harrison, 1882, loan for wife's surgery, $47, repaid in labor, account closed. Maria Santos, 1890, tuition for daughter, $62, daughter became teacher, account closed. Thomas Cooper, 1879, bought him shoes so he could walk to work, $3.50, never repaid, account still open. He flips through, page after page, decades of money given, lent, forgotten, some repaid in cash, most repaid in kindness, some never repaid at all. At the bottom of the crate, a final envelope. Charles opens it. Inside is a single bill, dated October 17, 1931, the day before Edison died. It's a receipt from a bakery in Newark for $1.25. Charles is confused.
He sends someone to find the bakery. They find the owner, an old woman named Mrs. Gershwin. She remembers. October 17th, a cold Saturday, an old man walked into her shop, not dressed like a millionaire, just an old man in a worn coat. He bought a loaf of bread, paid with crumpled bills. She gave him change. He left. She didn't know it was Edison, didn't know he'd be dead in 24 hours. Charles asks, why would he do that? Why would the richest man in America, on his last day on Earth, buy a loaf of bread from a tiny bakery? And then he understands. October 17th, 1931, 8 a.m. Edison wakes up. He knows he's dying. The family thinks he's sleeping. He's not. He's waiting. He waits until the nurses step out. He waits until the room is empty. Then he moves, slowly, painfully. He dresses himself, one button at a time. He walks out the door. No cane, no help, just will. He walks 2 miles through the streets of West Orange. People pass him. No one recognizes him. He's just an old man, a ghost already. He reaches the bakery. Mrs. Gershwin is kneading dough. She looks up. What can I get you? Edison looks at the bread, fresh, warm, simple. He thinks about his life, the patents, the money, the wars with Tesla, the electric chair, the phonograph, the lights, all of it. He thinks about his mother, when he was a boy, kicked out of school after only 3 months. Teachers said he was adult. His mother taught him at home. She baked bread. She believed in him. He thinks about her hands, flour-dusted, warm, the same hands as this woman in front of him. He buys the loaf, $1.25. He walks out. He takes one bite, tastes his childhood, tastes his mother. He walks home, 2 miles back. He lies down. The nurses never knew he left. He dies the next day. The bread sits on his nightstand, stale, useless, but he understands now. His father didn't spend his last day inventing, didn't spend it counting money. He spent it remembering where he came from, remembering the woman who believed in a dumb kid.
1933, 2 years after the funeral. The Great Depression is crushing America. Banks are failing. Families are starving. The Edison fortune, what's left of it, is shrinking fast. Charles sits in his office. Bills pile up. Taxes, maintenance on labs, salaries for the old employees his father promised to protect. The $12 million is almost gone. His advisors tell him to cut. Let the old man go. Sell the labs. Move on. Charles looks at the crate, the names, thousands of them, his father's invisible bank. He picks up the phone. He calls the first name on the list, John Harrison Jr., son of the man from 1882. Hello? Mr. Harrison, this is Charles Edison. My father loaned your father money in 1882. I'm calling to see if you need anything. Silence. Then a laugh. A sad laugh. Mr. Edison, your father saved my father's life. My father died last year, but he told me, if the Edisons ever call, you show up, no matter what. John Harrison Jr. shows up the next day. He's a carpenter, out of work. Charles hires him to fix the lab benches. Then the next name, Maria Santos's daughter, now a teacher herself. She can't give money, but she can teach. Charles sets up a small school for the children of Edison employees. Name by name, favor by favor, the network rebuilds itself. By 1935, Charles hasn't saved the fortune, but he saved something else, a community, a family, a promise. 1947. Charles is old now. He's writing a book about his father. He goes through the papers one last time. He finds something he missed, a small ledger hidden in the back of a drawer, dated 1878, 1 year before the light bulb. It's Edison's personal accounts from when he was broke, really broke, before the fame, before the money. Charles reads the entries. January 3rd, borrowed $125 from William, the janitor, to buy chemicals. January 10th, ate one meal today. William brought me soup. February 1st, William refused repayment, said I'll need it later. Cried. William, the janitor, the man whose name appears nowhere in history books, the man who kept Edison alive when he was nobody. Charles flips forward, years later, 1882, after the light bulb, after the money. June 15th, bought William a house. He refused, forced him to accept. June 16th, William came back, said house too big, gave it to his daughter's family. He'll live in the shed. Unbelievable man. June 17th, hired William's son. Smart kid, reminds me of his father. William's son, the boy who got the job, who grew up, who had children, who had grandchildren. Charles looks up from the ledger. He calls his assistant. Find out what happened to William's family. A week later, the report comes back. William's grandson is a doctor in Chicago, saving lives. William's granddaughter is a teacher in Detroit, educating the next generation. William's great-grandson is an engineer, working on something called television, building on the foundation Edison laid. All because a janitor shared his soup in 1878. But William's grandson has saved 10,000 patients. Each one has children, grandchildren. The math explodes. Maria Santos's daughter taught 40 years, thousands of students, each one changed, each one changing others. The boy with the business card in 1932, no one knows his name, but somewhere, someone's grandmother tells a story about a light bulb and a man who believed in her. You can't count that money. You can't audit that fortune. Edison didn't build a bank account. He built a universe. Every life he touched split into more lives. Every kindness compounded. The light bulbs will burn out. The patents will expire. General Electric will change. But somewhere, right now, a kid is failing at something. A teacher is telling them to try again. A parent is baking bread. A janitor is sharing soup. And Thomas Edison, 90 years dead, is still paying interest. October 18, 1931, the funeral. But let's rewind. Let's go back to the moment before Charles opened the will. The casket is closed. The mourners are silent. Charles stands alone. But there's someone else, in the back row, an old man in a worn coat. No one notices him. He's not a president, not a billionaire, just an old man. He waits until everyone leaves. Then he walks forward, slow, painful. He puts his hand on the casket. It's William, the janitor. He's 80 now, bent, broken, but alive. He whispers something. No one hears. But if you could lean close, you'd hear, "Thank you for the soup, Tommy. Thank you for letting me help." He walks away, into the crowd, into history, forgotten. But not really. Because William's great-grandson is working on television, and one day billions of people will watch stories told through the light Edison built, through the light William paid for with soup. And that, finally, is the fortune. The fortune you can't spend, the fortune that spends you. End.